Hello, 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 and welcome to this edition of A Quick Pint. Now, what is happening with Doctor Who at the moment? We have Doctor Who being terribly concerned about the pronouns of aliens, Doctor Who falling in love with Isaac Newton, and Isaac Newton being South Asian. Why on earth is this happening? Well, by the end of the video, I hope it's going to be clear that this is happening because this always happens when new ideologies take over. This happened with Christianity, and it's happening with Doctor Who. Now, when Christianity took over, what did they do? Well, they came up with a concept of Christians before Christ. They wanted to convey the idea that, in a sense, nothing had really changed, that it had always been like this, that the world had always been Christian, that people that were important and intelligent and that mattered, and that crucial cultural figures and mythological figures and all this, that it was all Christian. It had always been Christian. It had always been like this. And this was a way, I suppose, of indoctrinating younger people into thinking that this was the way things were and always have been, and so you simply shouldn't question it. Why should you question it? It's always been like that. And so they talked about Plato as being a Christian before Christ. They talked about Abraham as being a Christian before Christ to persuade the Jews. They talked about Socrates as being a Christian before Christ. They even tried to take hold of things like the Odyssey or whatever, and argue that the masts in the ships were in the shapes of crosses, and this therefore indicated that these people were Christians before Christ. Deep down, society had always been Christian. Everything was Christian. It had always been like this. We just hadn't realised it. And people that think that there might be a different way of doing things and a different way of thinking and whatever, well, they're just wrong. They're just naive. They don't understand the truth, which is that society really has always been Christian, and that people that are intelligent and important have deep down always been Christian. Now, I think you have something like this with Doctor Who. I mean, it's rather sad that we've moved from a huge world religion to basing our identity and our sense of reference around TV programmes that were created in the early 1960s, but there you go. What do you have with Doctor Who? You have an important British institution that is, in a sense, part of the British sense of self. There is a degree to which it is part of being British to like Doctor Who and to enjoy Doctor Who. He is, in a sense, a modern mythological character in British history. He is something around which a sense of British identity is based. And so it is quite important that if you're going to fundamentally change the sense of British identity from whatever that sense of identity, whatever that identity nexus was in, let's say, the 1980s, which was when they finished Doctor Who. They had Sylvester McCoy and they finished Doctor Who in about 1988. To this modern revival of Doctor Who, then you have to make sure that Doctor Who is congruous completely with the current way of thinking. So you can basically say, oh, well, Doctor Who has always been woke. He was woke before woke. And so that's what you do. You make Doctor Who woke. And that's exactly what they've done. How do you make him woke? You make him concerned about pronouns. You make him potentially homosexual in that he fancies Sir Isaac Newton. And another aside is that they have used an Asian actor to portray Isaac Newton. Now, perhaps very, very naive young people might be taken in by this and might actually genuinely think that Sir Isaac Newton was Asian on this basis. But that brings me to the second purpose of rewriting the national mythos, which is basically to humiliate those that don't agree. So there is an extent to which the boomers or whatever, it is true that their sense of identity, their sense of national myth, their sense of who they are, is part of it is things like Doctor Who, because they watched Doctor Who when they were children. And so what you need to do is you need to demoralise those people. You need to upset those people, so that those people feel rubbish. That's the idea. Those people feel terrible, and those people therefore just feel too deflated to be able to fight back. Well, one of the ways you can do this is you can take symbols that are important to them, such as Doctor Who, and you can impose something on them which those people will find offensive and upsetting, i.e. that they are concerned about transsexuality, or they are concerned, or that they are gay, or whatever, just to rub their noses in your power. So it's a way of humiliating them, of saying, look what we can do to the symbols that you cherish, and hopefully therefore to demoralise them so that they don't fight back against your power. And your power is based around the woke system. Similarly, there may be a sense in which people that are of the older generation, of the boomer generation, put things like historical truth and accuracy above conveying diversity and promoting woke politics. And on those basis, they will object to an Asian person playing Isaac Newton. So having an Asian person playing Isaac Newton can't really be seen as, oh, it's just colourblind casting. I don't think so. I think it's a deliberate attempt to humiliate people. And they've actually talked about this in the newspapers, though it will upset the boomers, to humiliate people that don't necessarily agree with the up-and-coming ideology. And if you disagree with it, a way of saying, look what we can do. Look what we can do, that which you find sacred. We can trash that ideas such as objective truth and so on, which you find sacred, and we can put our own ideology way above it. And that is what they always do. That's what the Christians did. I mean, in trashing things, destroying the temples and ripping them down and that sort of thing. You trash that which the previous group regards as sacred. So the previous power group that was in power. So that there really is nothing new about this at all. The question is, to what extent does it provoke a backlash? To what extent does this actually just humiliate people that disagree with woke ideology? To what extent does this genuinely manipulate young people into accepting that, it's always been like this, there's always been the new Christianity, and not questioning things? Or to what extent does it actually create a bond, an internal bond between those that are conservatives and disagree with this, and provoke some kind of reaction which might bring this down? And that's a very interesting question, I think. Are you ready for the future of the West?